Back from another day of saving the world. Honey, I'm home. No!
Mega spoiler! I didn't think I would ever see you again.
Who did this to you?
Your arch nemesis, whom you have known your entire life. And who also got a solo origin movie because he is so edgy.
You.
Yes, it is I, your great nemesis. I have you in my grasp, mega spoiler. But first, I will make an obscure reference which can only be understood if you've seen all previous 23 movies.
I have made some mistakes before in the past. Letting you go won't be one of them. NANI? You'll pay for what you did. I'll finish this once and for all.
What are you gonna do? You have no power over me.
Mufasa dies at the hands of Scar.
Oh, no spoilers! My one weakness!
Batman is secretly Titanic snaps Jim and Caveman together and secretly a wolf.
Ow! You may have won this round, mega spoiler, but as long as there is budget, I will always come back.
I'm suddenly alive again as well!
Yay! Catchphrase! Hey everybody, welcome back to part 5 out of this 7-episode series where we do a deep dive into all the different seasons of Total Drama and its spin-off The Redonkulous Race in order to figure out which season is the absolute best. My name is Silly Billy, but you can call me Billy. Today is an exciting one as we kick off our top 3. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, please go watch those right now if you want to watch this series spoiler free. If you have been keeping up to date with this video, well awesome! Could you maybe consider pressing the subscribe button if you haven't already? I know you've heard me ask this about 7 times by now, but it would massively help this wee little channel grow its first set of roots. Okay, so real quick, before we kick things off again, this video is completely subjective. All thoughts shared in any episode of this series are just that, thoughts. Our thoughts will differ on certain opinions, but let's keep the conversation normal. I'm not more right or wrong about things than you are, and I would love to hear your opinion in the comments down below as well. Again, there's a lot to talk about in these videos, and especially now that we get to the longer seasons, it's gonna take longer for me to discuss everything. So let's cut out all the nonsensical bits and jump straight into
Number 3. Total Drama Island.
Okay, calm down. A lot of you will probably have this season at number 1 or 2, and for good reason. Total Drama Island is a fantastic season and an amazing introduction to the world and the characters in this franchise. But while this season is absolutely terrific, it isn't the best the Total Drama franchise has to offer, which frankly says more about the 2 seasons yet to come than about Island being in 3rd. Let's start off with some of the good bits. Whereas Total Drama Action had the tough job of living up to Island's standards, Total Drama Island had the tough job of actually setting the bar for what's to come. If this season would have been a flop, we would probably not have gotten all the seasons that came after. But lucky for us, the season is absolutely amazing! Over the course of 26 episodes, we get to watch 22 teens battle it out for $100,000. Wow, compared to the other seasons, these teens get scammed. Up until this point, we are unfamiliar with any of the characters. Rewatching this is still a great time, but this is one of those moments where I wish I could delete selective parts from my memory to relive the magic of the season again. I would just love to re-experience Heather's evil scheming, Duncan and Courtney's growing romance, and Justin's singular line this season for the first time. But I guess watching it for the 87th time is fine too. I really want to delve deep into the characters, but I will have to hold my excitement a little while longer to talk about the setting and design of this season. Camp Wabanakwa is a fantastic set location. They really understand what a summer camp feels like, and they capture the feeling wonderfully in this set piece. Besides that, the island has some fun landmarks that regularly make an appearance on the show, allowing you to get acquainted with the island and even further enhancing that feeling that you're actually there with the contestants competing. I like how the show gives its characters the time to breathe by having them interact a lot outside the challenges as well, often in the form of the main lodge and the cabins. Not that the challenges themselves don't see any interactions, this is where the main action of the show happens. But I do think the show needs these off-challenge moments to fully flesh out its characters into real people. Anyway, since we're on the topic of challenges, I think Island might have the best challenges out of every single season. I could probably recall most, if not all of them. And yeah, while I've definitely seen the season the most of them all too, this can still be attributed to the challenges themselves. For one, all of the challenges in here are for the most part realistic, which I prefer to the wacky dumb stuff later seasons have contestants perform. Though this is mostly just a matter of taste, I still think it sells the idea of realistic people I keep bringing up. Sure, some of these things are disgusting, but I can imagine myself in a triple dog dare situation a lot easier than I can imagine myself building a working aircraft and racing it to a blimp. Most of these things will probably just seem familiar from your lives as well. Dodgeball, drop-off hikes, talent contests, treasure hunts, taking a snapping turtle to the groin. Okay, maybe not that last one, at least I hope. But you get what I'm saying. Not to mention that these challenges all fit together tonally, which is pretty impressive considering Island doesn't really have a gimmick to support on. It's simply 26 episodes on an island where they do scout-like activities and vote each other off. And they absolutely managed to make the most out of it without it ever feeling stale or relying on things outside the island to make the challenges work. It's impressive work, and it's no wonder these challenges are so memorable. So, what do we mean with the title of this video? Total Drama Island does its name justice? Well, because the season is the most total drama. The show was created as a parody of reality TV survival programs, and because of this, there are a lot of stereotypes and reality tropes that are ridiculed in the season. Later seasons also do this, but to a far lesser extent, usually limited to just copying the format of an elimination race. And that's more than logical. All seasons past Island no longer need to prove the concept of the show. Island did it for them. Later seasons tend to focus more on the cartoony aspect of the show and drop out the reality tropes, but this season heavily relies on mocking reality TV. As such, Total Drama Island has the most total drama. I'll get to a few examples later, but the combination of pacing, characters and wackiness make this the most dramatic season of them all. Sure, subsequent seasons all have their fair share of drama as well, but I mean dramatic as in over the top, ridiculous and absurd. With that definition, Island definitely takes the spotlight. Finally, I gotta talk about the tone of this season. Total Drama Island just feels different from other seasons. And that's probably because they haven't really found their footing yet. Island is much more serious than the rest of the seasons, which isn't a bad thing, but it is noticeable if you go back to this season after having seen all the others. The voice actors also need some time to adjust to their roles and fully get into character. Especially Christian Potenza's Chris is a bit rough the first couple of episodes, as he is very tame compared to the later Chris. And I don't just mean that he isn't a psycho yet. Early Chris is pretty mild in his reactions to the contestants.
Last time on Total Drama Island. Last time on Total Drama All-Stars.
After a while though, you notice that Potenza gets more used to the role and he starts going more all out, which fits the character greatly. But this issue is noticeable with other contestants too. DJ is a bit too cool, Gwen is way too cranky compared with rest of season Gwen, and Heather is a bit too cheery with the gang. I don't mind any of this, as the actors embrace their roles more and more as the season goes on, but you can definitely feel something's a bit off at the start. Okay, can I talk characters now? This cast of characters is humongous! This season has 22 contestants battle it out for the win, the largest amount of any in the series. It's impressive how one season can introduce so many iconic characters. They just hit it out of the park with these characters and their designs. Each of the characters, even the ones eliminated quickly, have such an interesting and outstanding design that it helps set them apart from the rest. And the same can be said for their personalities as well. As a cartoon, the show can benefit from having a lot of exaggerated stereotypes, and unlike American reality TV, this doesn't feel like we're watching paid actors pretend to be real people. The stereotypes strike a fine balance between easing us into the cast and getting us quickly accustomed to who these people are, whilst still having room for interesting development and unexpected twists. The first 2 episodes do a great job at establishing the cast. Episode 1 is a great introduction to our cast of characters. From their 3 lines of dialogue, you quickly get the vibe of these characters. Gwen is the sulky one, Lindsay is the dumb blonde, Duncan is the bad boy, and Heather is just disgusted to be here. Even from this picture, you can take so many character behaviors. Harold's awkward little smile, Owen's excitement for being here expressed by hugging random strangers, DJ's sympathetic smile, and Heather taking her distance from these weirdos. This first episode doesn't have any challenge yet, just the setup for one. Instead, it gives you time to get accustomed to the characters, which is completely warranted when dealing with this many new people all at once. Just like the characters are getting settled, we as the audience are also spending this episode to settle with the cast. past. It's a perfect introduction indeed. The second episode shows us the first ever challenge of the show, which is probably the most iconic one in the series as well. The fabled cliff dive makes its first appearance in the show. This once again gives every character a chance to shine individually and to flesh out their characters even more. It also features a midway cliffhanger of Owen being the one to make or break the challenge for their team, which is a smart decision on the writers' end, as they set up Owen as the one you'll be rooting for the rest of the season by actually making him overcome his fears and the expectations of the others. The Bass are eventually the first to send someone home, and Courtney would probably have been the one to bite the dust if homeschool Ezekiel didn't feel the need to spread his wisdoms with the team, setting in motion the funniest side plot of the show. Don't worry guys, we'll get there once we reach World Tour. Also, can you imagine if Courtney actually would have been eliminated first and she got the feral treatment instead of Zeke? Yeesh. This episode in particular shows how Total Drama was created as a parody above anything else. There are so many stereotypical tropes of reality TV that are mocked and exaggerated in this episode, and I am loving it. From the campers expressing their doubts about Owen before he plummets from the cliff, to Chris explaining how you can't come back. Ever! My favorite bit is how they keep postponing the final marshmallow forever. No joke, I counted. It takes 43 seconds between the final marshmallow being shown and Courtney receiving it. And they humor it up so much, with Chris doing a little eeny meeny miny mo in his head and Ezekiel and Courtney both dropping their stick and gaping at him with open mouth. Gosh, I love it so much. Ezekiel is eliminated here, and it's an example of what is probably the biggest problem of Total Drama Island: the lack of earlier character development. Total Drama Island gives us some of the greatest characters ever, but in order to give them the love they need, it sacrifices a lot of supporting characters along the way. It takes Total Drama 3 full seasons to reach the potential of most of the first gen cast, with Harold, Beth and Justin being pushed to action, and Cody, Ezekiel, Tyler and Noah getting their required screen time in World Tour. The only characters do not feature after Island are Eva, Katie and Sadie, and even they get some more development in the specials and the aftermaths. But since we're only looking at Island in this video, that means we have to consider these characters for who they are here and not for who they become later. With that being said, let me go over all of the characters that don't get a lot of screen time or don't see their characters developed. As a little challenge to myself, I'll give them all one sentence each. Let's go! Ezekiel, literally just here to get booted off first. Later seasons will prove this even more. Eva never gets to return to the show because she would probably destroy every season she competes in. Noah, just watch this video by Shaverless and you will know everything you need to know. I'm really glad he got to be in Redonkul's race. Justin has fewer lines of dialogue than I have subscribers at the time of writing this. Katie, having struggles to remember one important thing that she does this season should tell you enough. Tyler, funny guy gets eliminated because Courtney doesn't lose her plot armor until she kisses Duncan. No, seriously, Tyler's elimination is so gosh darn sad, and they play it off as a joke, but all I can do is feel bad for him. Yeesh. Izzy doesn't get developed because she doesn't need it. Izzy's just Izzy. Now shut up and love her. Cody, teaching children that simping will lead you to getting mauled by a bear and drowning while tied to a wheelchair.
And who's that? Oh, it's Sam!
Beth, her standing up to Heather is better than her entire arc in action. Sadie gets so heartbroken by Katie's elimination that she just stops talking to her team for the remainder of her stay. Oh, you mean they just didn't have anything interesting for her to do? I guess that works too. And so we are left with the core of this season. For some reason, as a kid I always refer to these characters as the Big 12, which looking back at it makes it seem like this is one big savannah I'm watching or something. I mean, I'm not far off. I guess it would probably have made more sense to consider the core cast of the season to be whoever makes it to the merge, but I guess I did so because this is the part from which the elimination order becomes harder to guess. Up until this point, it was still pretty clear who were the bigger and smaller characters of the show, and who could still be easy cannon fodder to Heather's evil schemes, or just be the random boot of the next episode. But I can still recall from my first ever viewing that I had this feeling of, who's next? At this point, you can say, surely they're not going to eliminate blank already and fill in any of the 12 remaining contestants on that blank space. Besides, only calling the merges of this season the big characters means that you skip out on both Courtney and Harold, who are both integral to one of the main storylines of this season and play a large role in Duncan's story. Like I said in a previous video, I think Courtney is one of the 5 most important characters to this season, despite being booted in episode 12. This is in my opinion the best Courtney we get to see in the show. Period. I've never been the biggest Courtney fan, but here she's the most likable. Her dynamic with Duncan is very sweet, and the romantic plotline is one of the high points of this season. It's cute to see Courtney give in to Duncan's rebellious nature and start to behave like a little rebel herself, while also seeing Duncan open up to Courtney more and more and dare to show his soft side through his tough shell. The pair of them have a great dynamic, and once Courtney finally gives in to Duncan at about the halfway point, you wonder how the rest of the season will play out now that they are officially into each other and Courtney isn't so stuck up anymore. And then the best twist of the entire season happens. Despite what you are led to believe, Harold survives the elimination round and Courtney is actually eliminated instead, which comes completely out of left field. Duncan shares our disbelief, explaining to Chris how he knows for a fact that at least 3 people didn't vote for Courtney. For a moment, you are left in complete doubt about what just happened and how this got to be. And then we pan over to Harold, standing alone at the bonfire. In the most exciting and epic twist of all, this absolute Chad sabotaged the voting by prying open the box containing the votes and replacing the cards with Courtney's name. And what a mad lad to vote off Courtney for what Duncan does to him. It probably would have made more sense if Harold would have voted off Duncan since he's the main source of his problems, but I can fully see past the flaw in logic when they give me a scene such as this. It's too bad Harold is eliminated the next episode, but at least he gets a happy ending. As Harold himself says it best,
I loved, I lost, and I saw boobies.
His final moments on the show give us the big reveal that he was the secret admirer to Lashana, which is such a deliciously nonsensical twist that it still cracks me up every time I watch it. Look at how happy this man is, what an absolute legend. And then there were 10. This is the point at which the season merges, and the show immediately compensates for all the eliminating they have done by not only having a non-elimination boy versus girls episode, but also reintroduce 2 ex-contestants to the show in the form of Izzy and Eva. This completely undermines every single warning Chris has given at the end of the elimination ceremonies, and it's what I mean when I say that this show is a parody above anything else. Eva is eliminated in the same episode as she returns, and for good reason, because she didn't add a whole lot other than being mad at Bridget. And why Bridget? I get that you're mad at your team members for voting you off, but this anger quickly transforms into only hating Bridget. She was only part of the reason you got booted. Why not be mad at all your former teammates? Anyway, after this we have 11 contestants left. Izzy gets to be amazing for a couple more episodes, and that means it's time to continue eliminating contestants that still had a shot. And I think the writers got a good taste of eliminating the lover characters with Courtney and kinda Harold, and then decided
They wanted more.
as the next 2 characters to go are Trent and Bridget. Both of these characters share some similarities in that they have a romantic partner and that they are relatively normal characters. Trent is eliminated as the result of Heather kissing him and then winning immunity herself, which was a shame to witness. Gwen and Trent had a great dynamic and were for the most part the main couple to follow this season. Trent's elimination comes quickly and unexpected, and he has to leave on a sour note as Gwen and Trent are still arguing up until the point where he actually leaves. It's a good move on Heather's part, but also highlights her plot armor this season, which can be a bit forced from time to time. At least Trent got to return in the next season and will do nothing else than be his cool, normal self. Right? Bridget also meets her fate after the Guy Alliance votes her off. I enjoyed the twist that Jeff actually forfeits on the plan, but it still comes to fruition after the woman can't decide on who to vote for. This is one of those eliminations that is both well written and makes a lot of sense within the dynamics of the group. Bridget is one of those characters a lot of people dislike for being quote-unquote boring, but I am on the side that you need these types of people in order to balance out the craziness of the rest of your cast. But unlike Sky, Bridget is actually a fleshed out character. And likable. Oh, and she doesn't have a boyfriend named Keith. Now, I quickly want to skip over a few characters to mention Jeff, as he is the last of the characters that I haven't mentioned yet that also has a normal and well-written elimination. Kind of. Jeff is an overall great character during his stay in Ireland. His design stands out from the others in the form of his cowboy hat, and I distinctly remember when I was younger that I would look for this guy during the challenges to see if he was still around. Note that this was way back when the show was still being aired on television, and it hadn't piqued my interest as much as it does today. This was from the time that I didn't think more of the show than, oh, Owen is fun, I hope Owen wins. Heather is mean, why don't they just eliminate her? Jeff has a fun hat, he can stay. As such, I always kinda like Jeff. I'm surprised he was able to make it as far as he did. Jeff falls into this category which I'll call major side character. Major because he plays a big role into the story, but side character because he isn't the main focus of the show. Jeff definitely deserves to be in that big 12 list Safari Me was talking about earlier, but once it's time to eliminate those guys, you can feel Jeff's time is coming up as well. As such, when there are only 6 characters left, you know he's next to go. Major character, but in no way major enough to compare to the other 5 still in the running. But despite the predictability of Jeff's elimination, it's very well handled and pays a lot of respect to his character. In his elimination episode, him and Gwen are suddenly paired up together while they haven't really interacted much at all up until this point. Gwen is irritated by his partying behavior but is ultimately swayed by his ways and comes to see things a little more his way. It's a bittersweet moment then when Jeff is eliminated, but he takes it like a champ. Though my only question here is, how? I watched this part back multiple times and I still have no clue what happened here. We have Lashana outright stating that she is voting for Heather. Gwen and Owen both hate her at this point too. Sure, Heather and Duncan both hint at voting for Jeff, but in no way is Jeff going to vote for himself, and even if, then it would be a tie. So here's my guess on what happens. Lashana says the following about the elimination.
I ain't gonna front. I knew that if it came down to a popularity contest, I was gonna lose big time. I had to vote off Heather.
By my guess, she knows that at some point there will be a popularity contest, or at the very least that there isn't a common enemy as soon as Heather is eliminated. So I think this is actually a mistake in the script, and Lashana states how she isn't going to vote for Heather, hoping she will meet her comeuppance as soon as the popularity contest kicks in, and instead she votes off Jeff, who would most likely win in said contest. But hey, that's just a theory. Again! Still, Jeff's elimination is kind of explained in universe to the best of their abilities. Obviously, they didn't want to rid themselves of Heather just yet, but I wonder why they didn't just let her and Owen win 2 of the challenges and have the others at risk of elimination. Now it feels overly convenient that she doesn't get voted off again. And this segues us nicely into a section I like to call
Characters that get eliminated without good reason, because Heather has plot armor. Yeah!
I think there's at least 10 characters that fit this category, but I only still need to discuss 4 of them. Oh well, we'll milk this for what it's worth. Let's start with the worst offender of them all. Oh, but first let me talk about the episode where she is eliminated in. I'm sorry for sidetracking all the time, but this episode is so good! Haute capture, as the French would say. I think, has us return to all the eliminated characters who are apparently doing fine in this giant mansion where they are living like gods among men. Honestly, if this is indeed all-inclusive, then I wonder how much better off Ezekiel would have been if he won the 100k. In fact... Okay, so I did some quick maths. Chris says that the final 5 have been in the race for 7 weeks. Let's say that all of the first 2 episodes happened in the span of a day. It isn't outright stated, but judging from the time of events, I think it's the right assumption to make. That means Ezekiel has been in this resort for a total of 49 nights. Let's round it up to 50 because it's a nicer looking number and we don't actually know if it's been precisely 7 weeks or just 7 weeks in a day or something like that. Since there aren't any actual island villas in Canada, I had to get creative and I settled on this amazing villa in Zakynthos, Greece. I looked at what they would charge a single adult for the duration of 50 nights. Since Total Drama doesn't tell you when it's taking place, I made the assumption that their first day is July 1st. July and August are usually the months of summer vacation, and since these guys are teens, the entire show has to take place in it. Seeing as the show would send contestants there no matter what, I decided to choose the non-refundable rate, which comes to about 828 euros or about 1,240 Canadian dollars a day, excluding food. Since I couldn't really find the average price difference between an all-inclusive and inclusive resorts, I opted for the next best thing, which is to calculate the average price a person spends on food on a vacation, which comes down to about 15 Canadian dollars a day. If we then add that to our daily rate and expand that to the entire duration of 7 weeks, assuming a stable exchange rate and a 0% inflation rate between the recording of the season and the moment of writing, that comes down to $68,406! And that's only up until the final 5. There's like 4 more episodes to go after this. After all this has ended, Ezekiel has received about 3/4 of the total prize money back in free vacation at this incredibly luxurious hotel. There you go, Ezekiel fans. There's the redemption arc you've always wanted. Ezekiel has secretly gained the most from this season out of all contestants. Moving on. Can you tell I study economics? Okay, so Haute Couture is a great episode that reintroduces the old contestants and immediately Noah takes a spotlight. Because of course he does. This character is fantastic, but the show doesn't realize that until World Tour. But since I kinda spend all the time I wanted to spend on this episode on calculating Ezekiel's net profit from being the first boot compared to losing in the finale, I don't really want to stick around for this episode much longer. My overall remark is that I really like seeing these characters again and seeing how each one of them deals with their elimination and the vacation they get to spend here. Most of them don't mind at all that they lost, but then there's Courtney, who has apparently been haunting Harold ever since his elimination for sabotaging her chance at the win. That must have been like, what, almost 3 weeks now? Wow, that makes it even funnier than it is already. Surely nothing can ruin this beautiful episode. Oh, hi, Chris. Seeing as Lashana was not going to win, the writers had to find a way to eliminate her from the show. But this is not the way to do it. What makes it extra sour is that Lashana never really gets to live up to her island streak again. In action she has a nice arc, but she only makes it about halfway, and in World Tour she's just the umpteenth victim to Al's seduction. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Lashana, I can see why many people want to see her return for a future season. The same can be said for DJ. After Island, DJ never really gets a second round of appreciation, and while they do fun storylines with the character, he never really gets to shine like his Island days. Sad Island days are cut short during Hook, Line and Screamer. DJ is one of those characters that is liked by anyone, and as such I feel that the writers didn't really have a good way of eliminating him. So they chose to eliminate him in a challenge where the worst person loses. And even so, the conditions for DJ being the worst in this challenge were fairly poorly set up. Sure, DJ was the most scared, but at what point was it ever explained that this wouldn't be a regular immunity challenge with the rest going up for voting? And even so, DJ never gets scared by the villain, he gets scared by Heather. Anyway, DJ was one of the better characters of this cast, and I feel he's underrated and underutilized by the writers in later seasons. Next up is Duncan, the tough bad boy who secretly has a heart of gold. This is definitely Duncan's best season up to date, and it's not even close. I imagine when people say they're a fan of Duncan, they talk about this version of the character, and I can fully support that decision. I've already touched on his dynamic with Courtney, but they are easily the best couple of the show. Duncan plays the game very strategically, a lot more than the other contestants in fact. We all give Heather the credit for being the mean one and coming up with all these evil plans, but Duncan actually does his fair share of evil scheming as well. Duncan forms the Guy Alliance when he notices the girls are leading in numbers, and he then uses said alliance to vote off Bridget, easily one of the most popular among the girls. Towards the end he also realizes that Heather might be a useful ally, which is something the others wouldn't even dare considering. But besides being a great strategist, he's also a great character overall. I get why he got to win action, just not in the way they made him win that season. But I hear you wondering, why is he in this list of unfair eliminations? To which I say, wait, how can you hear my voice? Get out of my head! But since you're here anyway, Duncan is eliminated in Are We There Yeti? Heather and Gwen both win immunity, so Chef gets to decide who to eliminate between Duncan and Owen, picking the former. Why? Why not just let them vote? Pretty sure they all would have voted off Duncan anyway. Owen's not a real threat to the girls anyway. It's great to see the girls triumph over the boys after the reverse had happened in the Boys vs. Girls finale, but it's never really explained why Chef decides to vote Duncan off. Chef doesn't seem to like Duncan all that much, but he's also one to reward toughness, and Owen did lose them the challenge. If they would have just let everyone vote, I'm pretty sure the same elimination would have transpired, but without me nitpicking about the details. Nah, I'd probably find something else to nitpick about. And last but not least in our club of unfairly booted contestants, we have, obviously, Lindsay. While Lindsay might not have the most unfair elimination, that title goes to Lashana, her elimination definitely raises the most questions that resemble something along the lines of, what were you thinking? Did you proofread this? And were you high while writing this scene? But first, the character herself, Lindsay is fantastic, an easy S tier. Oh, by the way, let me know if you ever want to see me make a tier list. I'll try to keep it under 10 hours, but seeing as these videos keep getting longer and longer, I can't really promise anything. Lindsay is introduced as that girl who's pretty dumb, but also pretty pretty. Heather quickly takes advantage of this by befriending her into an alliance. She isn't the brightest, and it makes for some very funny moments.
Communal bathrooms? But I'm not Catholic.
Lindsay in this season is more of the cliche that her character's based on, while the real development is saved for action. That isn't to say that she doesn't get to grow here though. Especially towards the end, Lindsay starts to realize that Heather might not be as friendly as she thought. And just like Beth, as soon as Lindsay starts to stand up to Heather, she is promptly eliminated. Only difference is that Beth actually got voted off by her teammates. But Lindsay...
It's not exactly true.
I'm too tired for this stuff. They have to build bikes, but then have to swap those bikes, but then only 4 of the 8 get to race in the final race, and those are the people whose bikes made it across the finish, so they get to race, but then turns out one of the people in the second round is actually the one going home, without an elimination ceremony at all, and then Duncan and Owen crashed, so they technically didn't cross the line at all, meaning Lindsay, who came in second out of 8 in this challenge, is the one going home. There are so many plot holes with this episode, it's not even funny anymore. Why would someone who makes it through round 1 be the one to get eliminated? What's the point of Heather's immunity if someone else is just gonna get eliminated instead? Why doesn't she give up said immunity? Why does Heather not care that her only real ally is now gone over this dumb rule? Does Heather realize that literally everyone hates her now? Why would you even try to cross the finish line at all, since crashing apparently exempts you from elimination? Why does crashing you exempt you from elimination in the first place? What was the point of swapping bikes? Why would you try to get someone else's bike over the finish line in round 1 if it can only win them immunity but not you? Where were Lashana and Izzy during all of this? Why were there no repercussions for them not joining the challenge? Can you skip all challenges up until the finale without consequences? The only upside to this episode is the character shift that we get with Lindsay. She takes her elimination like a champ. She outright tells Heather what a monster she is in one of the most memorable scenes in the entire show. By the way, they made an alternative version to the scene where the bleep is replaced by some actual words. I probably don't need to tell you that the censored version is far superior to whatever this is.
Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little, no-good, selfish, heartless, pushy, bossy, mean, bully of a girl!
It even sounds weird because they still left out the background music in this version, which makes sense in the censored version, but just sounds odd and out of place if you then add words back, but not the music. Probably the most immersion-breaking moment of this season, and maybe all seasons combined. Anyway, after this, Lindsay says goodbye to everyone, including Heather, and leaves while literally holding her head high. I am so glad they expanded and doubled down on this character change in action, rather than changing it back to her original self. Lindsay is truly one of the best characters on this show. And finally, we have the finale, or rather, the final 3. Heather, Gwen, and Owen. And since the script is getting pretty long, I put myself to the challenge to name only things all 3 of them have in common. Let's see. These contestants all make it to the final 3. Yeah, so far so good. They were on the same team, where they were valued members of... No, that's not right. But they were all equally likely to win... No, that's not it either. They all disliked being here, never mind. Oh, but they all had to lose a loved one at some point or not. Nope, that's also a lie. They all won individual immunity at some point. No, really? Oh, come on. They all wear clothes. Yeah, they all wear clothes and they all have No, come on! Okay, so they are completely different from one another. I get it. Fine. I'll just go over each one of them individually then. The only thing that they have in common is that they are great characters and that they are definitely all-stars of the Total Drama cast. I give up. Let's start with Heather, the main antagonist of this season. Most people will say Heather is their favorite villain of the show, and I couldn't agree more. Heather is so evil, I love it. A short trip back down memory road. Back when I was getting into Total Drama freshly, I had this one friend in high school who also liked the show, and we talked about it a lot. I was a big fan of the underdog characters like Cody and Tyler, while his favorite characters were the, and I quote, evil of the show, with his main being Heather. And I really didn't understand that. Heather? How could you like Heather? But as I grew older, I not only began to understand why someone could like Heather, but I also started to appreciate well-written characters over likable ones. And if you look up well-written in the dictionary, there's an image of Heather accompanying it. No need to look that up, just trust me on this one, I'll promise. I'm about to repeat myself for my All-Stars video, but Heather definitely has the best arc throughout the entire show. Please ignore All-Stars for that. And that arc starts here in Season 1. Heather is not here to make friends. Introducing Heather with those sunglasses was a great way to showcase how shady she was gonna play the game, even if they never get featured again. Heather wastes no time making allies. Her main sheep are Lindsay and Beth, but she's also able to convince Izzy and Owen to vote with her, making her a powerful player in her team. I still like to know which one of you didn't vote for Heather in the episode where she read out of Gwen's diary. You single-handedly allowed Heather to be on the show as long as she is, as well as getting Prince Charming kicked off the show. This should have been a tie and one of you ruined it! Anyway, Heather gets away with some awful stuff. Reading people's diaries, manipulating contestants into giving her their vote, giving Lindsay the cold shoulder when she needs it most, and most notably being a Before the merge, Heather is constantly safe because someone else is a better target. Owen doesn't participate, Beth cursed the team, and Cody, well...
I'm drawing a bear!
Oh. But after the merge, the show cannot convince us that the majority of the others wouldn't vote for her. As such, the writers make it so that she wins immunity, after immunity, after immunity, and again, and again, and again. Easily the weakest part of the character. And before you ask, yes, that is a character flaw and not just convenient writing. Because Heather seems to bank on the idea that she's going to win immunity no matter what. I've already touched on Lindsay's elimination and how Heather should realize that saving Lindsay is probably the better thing to do here, but another one of those moments is in Hide and Be Sneaky, where she doesn't let Lindsay tag either one of the two boys they find, and as such she risks Lindsay getting eliminated for absolutely no reason or gain whatsoever. Heather isn't dumb, she knows she can just let Lindsay tag one of them to gain immunity without it affecting her immunity in any way. And probably the worst crime of them all is insert and do not destroy. Her plan to kick off Trent by kissing him is incredibly stupid if you aren't certain you will get immunity. But of course, she actually receives immunity through a random reward gift basket. How convenient! Other than that, Heather is a great villain. Even though I'm not a big fan of how they handle her plot armor, it definitely adds to that feeling of her getting under your skin as well. Heather meets her comeuppance in Triple Dog Dare You, which is easily the most satisfying moment of the entire show. She performs and completes dare after dare, each one more disgusting than the previous one. She eventually cracks when Chef has to shave her head, kicking the clippers in the air only for them to fall on her head and do the job anyway. And Chris then has the audacity to state that Heather technically refused the challenge and as such is still eliminated. Man, that's just brutal. But since it's Heather, you can't help but feel relieved she is finally kicked off the show. A great end to her character in Island and a great first act to the Heather arc. Heather is mean to a lot of people, but none get it as bad as Gwen. Gwen is arguably the main character of Total Drama Island as far as there's only one. It's not like we watch the world through her eyes or anything, but it does feel like Gwen is the more important character from the bunch. There's a few reasons for this. She's a very sober and normal character between those wacky stereotypes, she's giving a compelling arc, and she feels very relatable. Gwen could have easily been a goth stereotype similar to Crimson and Ennui in the Redonkulous race, but instead Gwen is one of the most complex and captivating characters of the show, and they make sure you become invested in her story. And I mean, we all had our hopes on who would win the show, but I don't think there was anyone actually rooting for Gwen to lose. An overall fantastic character and a worthy finalist. And then we have the big man himself, Owen. If you had to pick out one camper to represent the show in its entirety, you would probably go for Owen. Or Stacy, that could work too. Owen's character can be described in one word: marvelous. This works in two ways. He's a marvelous character because they did a very good job at portraying Owen. His physical appearance immediately tells you that this guy is not going to keep up with challenges like the others can, meaning he quickly takes on the role of the underdog. His excitement tells you that the guy likes to throw parties and values friendships over anything else. His wide open eyes and a little smile portray a feeling of innocence and trustworthiness, while his crow's feet tell you that this guy laughs a lot. Owen is very jovial and instantly likable, but he's also marvelous in the sense that he makes extraordinary things happen, both in a victorious and in a comical way. Owen's character is frequently used by the writers as a way to bridge regular old elimination races with cartoons. I mean, look at this, what is this? Not only does Owen tie the show to its cartoony roots, more than the other characters I would say, but he is also mostly used as a comic relief character. Owen is regularly separated from the group to go on his own little mission where he encounters a lot of wacky and outlandish shenanigans. Some of my favorite examples include his and DJ's Hunter story in Paintball Deer Hunter, and Owen reenacting the movie Castaway in Camp Castaways. By the way, you may have noticed that I haven't talked about Mr. Coconut, and that is because he isn't a contestant, he never was, and he never will be. It's just a one-off joke, guys. Get him off your tier lists! All these ingredients make for a fantastic character you can't help but fall in love with. Owen vs. Gwen was the perfect finale in my opinion, and is still the best one to date. I was rooting for Owen when watching the show, but I think both of them deserve every bit of that finale spot. And the story. I enjoy that you get to decide for yourself which of those two finalists deserves to win even more, especially when you have two very different but equally good options to choose from. People who like underdog stories and comic relief characters can pick Owen as the one who won it all, while people who are more interested in character growth and relatability will pick Gwen as their favorite. Not to forget the people who will root for Gwen because she is just too dummy thick. I wouldn't judge. But that is going to be it for today's video. Only 2 more seasons remain, so come tomorrow and you can know the winner via process of elimination.
The answer might shock you.
Or maybe not, you'll just have to see it for yourself. Either way, we are going around the world in the next season. You'll just have to stay tuned to find out which host will take us there first. Thank you so much for the support, guys. This has been Silly Billy, and remember to never kick a pair of clippers in the general direction of your face. Houdoe!